But, Brandon, we're going to move on into our next team, and that is the Nebraska, or as I like to say, the Nebraska Cornhuskers. And don't ask me how I get that. I just like playing with words sometimes. And Nebraska,
I know you do.
Nebraska just sounds funny to me when I say it. But the starting point for this one, you actually have a quote on your side of the table that you actually want. I'm just going to dish it off to you. Start this one off for us because you have the quote on your side of the table.
So, College Football News had an article. It was 2017 Nebraska preview, Be a Superpower Again. And how they start off the article, they start off by saying, Nebraska, enough with being fine, enough with being okay, enough with settling for 9 wins and a swag bag. That's how they started off. And I think it's, in a sense, it's accurate because Nebraska has been that team that they are very consistent at getting 9 wins, 10 wins, but not going anywhere.
Kind of like the college version of what Jeff Fisher said on Hard Knocks when he's like just 7-9 bullshit. This is the version, except it's a little bit better than 7-9 bullshit for the NFL. And you read that article to me, and it's like, holy crap, that is the Nebraska Cornhuskers, because I think of their past teams, and it's been, they were a good team. They were flashy here, but where's the Big Ten title game chances? Where's the college football playoff chances?
Let me make a point to that, too. I'm glad you brought that up because it's been more than 16 years since Nebraska has been anywhere near the national championship chase. And it hasn't won a conference championship since 1999. That's 18 years ago.
That was when they were part of the Big 12, I believe. They weren't even a part of the Big 10 at that time.
That's 18 years ago. So Nebraska has come to the Big 10, and they've been successful. They've had their success in the Big 10. But they have never, I think that you would agree, scratched the surface to being a team that's going to be competing for the Big 10 championship game or even be competing for a college football playoff spot.
No, this was a team that, especially before Mike Riley, I would always think, because there were some close friends that I had through, those are my days in the sports writing, when I used to write for fansided.com with their writing Illini.com for the Illini side, and me and the Nebraska guy were really close, and we would talk, and I'd be like, what is up with Nebraska? And he'd be like, you know what? We can win games, but we just can't get over that hurdle. We just can't get over the hurdle. And the Joe Pelini era in Nebraska, you looked at it, and it was ever since they joined the Big Ten, 9-4, 10-4, 9-4, 9-3. However, third. Yeah, they finished first and got a division title in 2012. But then 2013 and 2014, it was back to the same old thing. And when they went to that division title game, that was the one where, do you remember the score to that Big Ten title game in 2012? Or do you want a little bit of a reminder, Brandon? They played Wisconsin in there. It was the number 12th ranked Cornhuskers against, I don't even think Wisconsin was ranked. And this is when Monta Ball was on the Wisconsin Badgers. 70-31.
Yeah, I thought
they lost 70-31. Scored in the first, scored in the fourth, and Wisconsin went on to the Rose Bowl that year. Besides that, it had been, we're not competing for the conference title as we are finishing second or worse in the division. And then Mike Riley steps in, and everyone expects it to be, it's going to be different. We're going to change it because it's no longer Pelini. His first year was a little rough because, you're switching over into a new coach, 6-7. They were fourth in the West. But then last year, 9-4, second in the West, lose their bowl game. And that's how their season went. So it was kind of like, well, we're back to form here. We're back to how it is. Even with the guys that they have had, where I remember like Amir Abdullah, who is now with the Lions, a flashy running back that they have had. Tommy Armstrong Jr., flashy quarterback that they had. That's why the quote that you read, like after you read it the first time to me, I just sat there and went, why didn't I think of that? Like that is something that I should have thought of because that is exactly what Nebraska fans have been seeing for the last few seasons.
Well, Nebraska fans now will not be seeing Tommy Armstrong anymore. They won't be seeing Jordan Westerkamp anymore. They're going to be seeing most likely Tanner Lee, a transfer from Tulane, stepping in at quarterback and leading this offense. And then you're going to be having guys like Stanley Morgan Jr. and D. Mornay Pearsonell being the guys at the receiver position. And if healthy, Divine Ozigbo is also going to be a guy who is going to be leading the running back core for this team. And it's going to be a bit of a, I don't want to say a different team, but it's going to have some different pieces, especially on the offensive side of the football. And then you look at an offensive line that could have some concerns, but should be fine. And it's a Nebraska team that, again, it could be that team that goes 9-4.
I look at last season and I go, yeah, I know that you won 9 games last year, but the majority of your losses came to the end when, you got some breaks last year. You beat Indiana in a close one. The Northwestern game was a close one. Purdue, I'm not going to say that was close. That was a 2-score game. You beat Minnesota. That was a close game. But then Wisconsin beats you. Ohio State beats you. Iowa beats you. And I wonder if this year, because of all the change, you mentioned the ones on the offense. They're not the only ones. Defense and special teams have a lot of moving pieces.
And you go to a new scheme. You go to a 3-4 scheme.
There are a ton of moving parts to where I look at this and I go, you might not have as favorable as a time last year than you had this year, because I look at their schedule non-conference wise. I'm not afraid of it. Arkansas State should be an easy win. Eugene, Oregon, I don't know what to think of the Ducks this season. I know they beat them last year. However, they are going through a change on their own as Helfrich isn't there anymore. So I'm sitting there going, I want to say Nebraska will win, but it's in Eugene, and I'm not quite sure what I think of the Ducks yet. And then Northern Illinois, I want to say that Nebraska could win that game. However, then I look at the conference schedule, and I'll put it this way. I've got Wisconsin beating you. I've got Ohio State beating you. You get Penn State this year on the road. Good luck with that one. Penn State will win. And then you've got tough games, tougher games than last year. I think Iowa will be different because I don't know if I'm as high on Iowa as I was last year. That one will be interesting. That one could go over to a win for you guys, but 2 games that could go over as losses this year. At Minnesota with a PJ Fleck team that we just talked about. The offense could be clicking by that point late in the season, and they could put up more points on you. And then a Northwestern team that we expect to be better this year as well. So I look at this conference schedule, and I see for sure 3 losses, pardon me. However, there's a possible to make those 5 or 6 losses just in the conference this year.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of agreeing with you in the sense of Arkansas State should be a win. Northern Illinois, I would say so. Rutgers and Illinois to start things off before you get to October 7th against Wisconsin. So you've got 4 wins there that I would think, and
could
then
be
Oregon
4-1, 5-0,
and then Oregon again. They're that team that I'm not quite sure about yet, and then Wisconsin back to back. But you've got Wisconsin at home. And you've got Ohio State at home as well.
Do you really believe that Ohio State is going to lose to Nebraska? Just honestly. I'm asking honestly. If you had to pick a winner right now, would you honestly say Nebraska beats the Buckeyes?
I would say Ohio State.
Okay.
But at the same time, I don't think Ohio State is as dominant as everyone else thinks they are. I just don't think so.
I think when it comes to a team like Nebraska, the Buckeyes and the Nittany Lions should have no problem winning those games. Now, the thing is, and people are going to say this, you got to go out and play the football games, and those are true. But right now, at this point, when we can just dull out wins left and right,
Oh, sure.
I don't think the Nittany Lions and the Buckeyes have a problem playing the Cornhuskers this season. I just don't see them giving those two teams
Penn State.
a run for their money.
Penn State's going to beat them. But I think I have Penn State over Ohio State.
Yes, you do. You have Penn State probably winning it all.
In the Big Ten.
Yeah, in the Big Ten.
But I think that, well, spoiler alert, I guess. We haven't even given that
No,
yet.
but just hearing you talk about them, it's pretty close.
But yes. But at the same time, I think Nebraska can be competitive to the point where some of these teams, a Purdue, they should get the win. A Northwestern, Northwestern could play them tough, but they should get the win. Again, with Minnesota, same thing. Iowa, I think they would beat. They're poised for 9 wins again.
Yes.
They're poised for 9 wins. That's basically going through this. They're basically poised for a 9-win season. That's when I look at their schedule. 3 losses in the regular season, maybe a win in their bowl game, possibly a loss, and then you've got your 9-4.
Here's the question I'm going to ask you, and this is because we've already talked about these 2 teams already. Do you see in your mind, if you had to give a kind of percentage of how you are feeling when it comes to Northwestern and it comes to Minnesota, do we see a change in outcome this year compared to last year because of, like I said, Minnesota's going to have a new offense that they're going with. They're probably going to throw the ball a lot more and have more than 9 touchdowns from their quarterbacks this season. And Northwestern, they're another team returning a lot of starters. We even talked about them. Could they possibly be one of the top 2 teams in this side of the Big Ten? Do you see either of those two, Minnesota or Northwestern, challenging Nebraska more this year and flipping those wins that were wins for the Cornhuskers into losses this year?
I would say that Northwestern, outside of the 2, Northwestern would be the team that would challenge them a little bit more. Here's one of the big things I think for Nebraska, too, is that they lost a key piece on defense for 4 to 6 months, and that's Chris Jones. They lose him for 4 to 6 months to repair a meniscus tear in his knee, in his left knee, and how much of an impact does that have on this Cornhusker team? I'd say a huge impact. I would say an absolutely huge impact. There's other guys who are obviously going to have to step in, but to lose one of your main guys for the first 4 to 6 months, I mean, that's huge. I think that you get him back, middle of the season, you would hope, late part of the season, because, you got, let's say, August, September, October, November, you maybe have him back for the end, which would be big, but that's if it's the 4 months. So that's why I'm not saying that just because of him, it's all over. But an injury to a key guy. But I think that then you have to have safety Joshua Kalu step up, and he's going to be one guy to rally around, and he's going to probably be the leader of this defense, especially in the secondary.
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned him because I was going to bring up, you mentioned it earlier, they're going to have a new scheme, and the reason why they're having a new scheme is Riley fired his defensive coordinator last season in Mark Banker, who he had worked for 20 years, including 14 as coordinator, and he replaced him with former UConn head coach Bob Diaco. And here's the thing I want to ask you. You mentioned the scheme change. You mentioned the leadership from the safety position. How much of an effect will this scheme change have on this season, or will it not? Because the non-conference schedule isn't too straining, and by the time we get to the most important games, the scheme isn't going to be the big question because this team will have playing games in it, and we'll have most of the season in this scheme before we get to those big games like Wisconsin, like Ohio State, and especially Penn State.
Well, here's what I would say is that no matter what the scheme is, you still have to put pressure on the quarterback. You still have to have dominant pressure up front. And I think that that's what you're going to strive for, aim for, no matter what happens. The secondary is going to be the team's biggest strength. But up front, you need to be able to put pressure on the quarterback. You need to be able to get a lot of things going before it even gets to the secondary. And will they be able to do that? I don't know how much the scheme affects them, because either way, that's your goal.
Yeah.
That's what you need to do. Whether you're 3-4, 4-3, nickel, dime, you need to be able to put pressure on the quarterback.
Pennies, silver dollars, however you want to look at it.
Silver dollars. Yeah, it's a new scheme this year. The Bears are using it.
Yeah.
Silver dollar. But that's the number one. That's the number one goal. And I think that, they only generated 3 takeaways in the final 5 games last season. That's got to change. That's got to change. They need to be consistently winning the turnover battle, the turnover margin. That's how teams win. You don't turn the football. I sound like an idiot. I know I really do.
You say this each and every week.
Yeah. Don't turn the ball over. Get turnovers. Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
You just got to make that turnover differential positive, not a negative.
That's the recipe for success. And I didn't just discover the cure to cancer, but I thought I'd just mention that because it does make a difference.
Here's my final thought on Nebraska's season, and Nebraska fans might hate this. However, take it constructively. I think that you guys are going to have a season record-wise closer to that you had in Riley's first season. And the reason why I say that is Wisconsin, Ohio State, yeah, I know those are at home. I know Northwestern's at home. Those 3 are losses. I think Minnesota gets the win over you this season. I think Penn State gets the win over you this season. That is 5 losses already for you guys. Now, Oregon, I'm unsure on. I'm going to give you that game right now. That could change as we get closer, but I think this is going to be a 5, maybe 6 loss season. And this could be where it's like, wow, we started the season 5-0, but then we finished the season 1-6, which would not be good at all. You still get to go to a bowl game. However, it's going to be very tough from October on. This team is going to struggle in my mind. And that Iowa game, of course, I'll give you a puncher's chance right now. I probably will give you 50-50 with Iowa just because I don't know what to expect from Iowa this season, but there's a chance you guys can go 1-6 from October 7th to November 24th this year. But I want to flip it onto you guys now. Let us know down below in the comment section, what do you guys think about the changes? What do you see for Nebraska? Go ahead, Brandon.
And I was just going to say, I don't want to cut you off, but I did. Is that
you don't want to, but you did. It's okay.
I did because I had to, and
boo.
because I know
you
that
do you, boo.
Because at the beginning I was mentioning the fact that all Nebraska does is they have these 9-win seasons, and that there was plenty to be able to back that up. But in 2015, let's not forget that they had a not so great season at 5-7, I do believe.
And that was Riley's first.
I'll pull the Tony Reale on you, and the things you guys missed or messed up, and that was one thing that I did miss was that first season in 2015
under Riley,
and that was a not so good season. But outside of that, it has been pretty much at the 9-win mark. So for all you haters out there that were going to point that out, screw you, beat you to the punch.
And this is where you guys come in and let us know down below what you guys think of Nebraska coming in to this season.